In a hushed tone, I confessed, Apos, I never truly loved you, not even from the beginning, Apos. During the vow renewal, his response filled me with regret. I murmured to Michael during our vow renewal, quote, I never truly loved you, not even from the very beginning. Quote. The expression on his face truly rendered everything worthwhile. I am Samantha, 32 years old, and for the past 8 years, I have been masquerading as the ideal wife, all the while withering away within. Our paths crossed during a time when I was fervently striving for recognition at work, dedicating 60 hours a week in hopes of catching the eye of upper management. Michael had a steady job in property management, a pleasing appearance, and, above all, he adored me completely. In the space that exists between us, I found my resolution. I understood it then, and I am certain of it now. The wedding unfolded as a grand spectacle, a vision my mother was determined to bring to life. All around us, people couldn't help but remark on how we embodied the essence of a perfect couple. If they only realized the eye rolls I would discreetly unleash behind Michael Apos' back as he droned on about the tedious minutiae of work. I can still hear my maid of honor Apos' soft voice, asking, Are you sure about this? Just moments before I took my steps down the aisle, I simply smiled and remarked that he was a good guy, and that was the truth. Yet, good does not equate to thrilling, daring, or deserving of someone of my caliber. The initial years were not without their merits. Michael Apos' income allowed me the freedom to embrace risks in my career, such as declining that lateral move that promised greater financial reward but diminished my visibility. I crafted the narrative to suggest I was making sacrifices for our future, yet the truth was that I was merely relying on the financial safety net he offered. And he devoured it eagerly. Our department underwent a transformation 3 years ago with Thaddeus Apos' arrival. Indeed, that was a man driven by ambition. We began our days with working lunches, which seamlessly evolved into drinks after hours. While the physical interactions were minimal, the bond shared was undeniably profound. Michael remained blissfully unaware, even as I returned home in the late hours, the scent of whiskey and high-end cologne clinging to me. He would merely warm my dinner and inquire about my day, resembling a well-conditioned pet. In the eyes of the world, I embodied the role of the devoted and affectionate spouse. I would gently brush my fingers against Michael Apos' arm during company gatherings, chuckle at his corny jokes, and share heartfelt anniversary tributes on social media, accompanied by captions such as, "So grateful to share this journey with my closest companion." How utterly repulsive. Yet, in the solitude of my own thoughts, I found it impossible to conceal my disappointment. Is that truly the extent of their promotional offering? Did you make any attempt to negotiate? I would inquire, fully aware that it would diminish his sense of self. The vow renewal was, in fact, Michael Apos' suggestion for our 8th anniversary, a romantic gesture aimed at reaffirming our bond as he sensed my growing distance. Months were devoted to meticulous planning, a detail that should have served as my initial indication that he harbored suspicions. The ceremony, though more intimate than our wedding, retained an air of elegance. A backyard garden party adorned with fairy lights, surrounded by the warmth of closest friends and family. Michael crafted vows that moved everyone to tears, expressing how marrying me was the finest decision he ever made. As my moment arrived, I delivered the standard vows I had stumbled upon during my late-night search the evening prior. As we swayed together in our first dance, Michael drew me near and softly murmured, "I oppose. They never loved anyone the way I love you." Something within me simply broke. Perhaps it was the third glass of champagne, or perhaps it was the culmination of 8 years spent masquerading as someone I was not. Before I could rein in my words, I found myself whispering, "I never truly loved you, not even from the very beginning." His arms grew rigid around me. The melody lingered in the air, yet Michael Apos' expression, oh, that expression. It was neither anger nor shock. It was a gradual, unsettling realization, as if he had always been aware, yet had chosen to deceive himself. In that fleeting moment, a twinge of remorse brushed against my conscience. Nearly. Instead, I experienced an exhilarating surge of strength. I finally voiced the thought that had lingered in my mind for years, and to my surprise, the world continued on unchanged. Our guests remained blissfully unaware of any issues. I have always excelled at maintaining a facade. Yet, on that particular night, Michael found himself in the guest room, seeking solace away from the familiar confines. As I gazed upon his face the following morning, hollow-eyed and pale, an uncanny sensation washed over me, as if I had at last encountered the true essence of Michael. A person who perceived my true self with clarity. An individual who could truly stand as a formidable rival. The weeks following our vow renewal took on a new character. It felt as though we were engaged in a peculiar chess match, one in which neither of us seemed to recognize the existence of the board itself. Michael ceased inquiring about my day or sharing details of his own. He would return from work, prepare himself a drink, and retreat into his home office until the hour of rest arrived. Initially, I allowed him to indulge in his minor outburst. Isnapos. It interesting how emotional men can be. Yet, as the third week unfolded, his silence began to gnaw at me. During dinner with our friends Paxton and Colette inquired about the progress of our second honeymoon phase following the vow renewal. Before I could weave a charming narrative, Michael fixed his gaze on her and declared, quote, "Actually, I think Samantha and I are finally seeing each other clearly for the first time." Quote. Then he smiled at me as if we were in on a secret together. I felt an overwhelming urge to wipe that self-satisfied expression from his visage. I began to devote more of my time to Thaddeus, no longer making an effort to conceal it. Staying late transformed into our secret signal for an evening of drinks or dinner. He would express to me the depths of my underappreciation, insisting that someone with my talent ought to have ascended to the role of director by now, all the while suggesting that Michael was undeniably a hindrance to my progress. Indeed, boundaries were crossed. One night in his car, in the office after all had departed, and once in a hotel when I informed Michael of my presence at a conference. I felt no remorse. In the meantime, Michael was undergoing transformations that filled me with unease. He began frequenting the gym and socializing with friends over drinks, all while keeping the details of his whereabouts from me. In a moment of curiosity, I glanced at his phone while he was in the shower and discovered messages from a person named Ren. Nothing overt, merely arranging to get together. As I nonchalantly inquired about Ren during breakfast, he merely replied that Ren was a friend from college before returning his attention to his coffee. As Michael began to probe into our financial matters, tensions escalated significantly. He observed the deductions from our shared account, the presents I had purchased for Thaddeus, the weekend getaways, the exquisite dinners. The following day, I found that he had taken half of the funds from our savings account. As I dialed his number, seething with anger, he responded with an unsettling calmness, revealing that he had taken the precaution of opening his own account to safeguard his assets. As if I were a criminal, I shouted at him about trust and the essence of marriage as a partnership. He absorbed the words in silence before responding, quote, "Thatapose, rich coming from you, Sam. Quote, by the way, how is Thaddeus faring these days?" With that, he ended the call. It was then that I understood Michael was not merely injured. He was readying himself for battle. The company retreat in Aspen marked a pivotal moment. Michael, who typically shunned these work gatherings, astonished me this time by graciously accepting the invitation to be my +1. The initial night unfolded with a certain ease. Michael captivated the room with his extensive knowledge of wine, effortlessly bringing laughter to my boss with a tale of a property disaster that, surprisingly, turned out to be quite amusing. It was on the second day that everything began to unravel. I had arranged to meet Thaddeus in the hotel restaurant to prepare for breakfast ahead of our presentation. Upon my arrival, I found Michael seated alongside Thaddeus, each cradling their coffees as if they were longtime companions. The expression on Thaddeus' face, a perfect blend of innocence and surprise, as if caught in the blinding glare of an oncoming vehicle. "I hope you don't mind," Michael remarked with a nonchalant air. Upon encountering Thaddeus in the lobby, I decided to partake in your breakfast meeting. I would be fascinated to witness the dynamic between the two of you as you collaborate. The manner in which he underscored the importance of work sent a shiver through me. He was aware. Later that day, Michael occupied the front row as I delivered my presentation alongside Thaddeus. We presented a fresh marketing strategy to the executive team, a culmination of months of dedicated effort. Yet Thaddeus continued to stumble over his lines. We had practiced countless times to perfect the transition points. Each time my eyes met Michael's, I found him observing us with a serene intensity that stirred a desire within me to scream. During the gala dinner that evening, Michael exuded charm in abundance as he interacted with my colleagues. As he stepped away to fetch our drinks, my boss Apos' wife leaned in and remarked, quote, "You Apos, re so lucky, quote. Michael Apos' devotion to you knows no bounds." I offered a brief smile before making my way to the bathroom, where I quickly sent a text to Thaddeus. Join me on the terrace in 5 minutes. I lingered in anticipation. 15 minutes. He failed to appear. Instead, Michael approached me, 2 fresh drinks in hand. Are you in search of someone? He inquired, handing me a gin and tonic. Before I could respond, he interjected, Thaddeus has departed. It seems he received a call indicating that his role is under review following today's presentation. Regret. During the journey back, he at last confronted the unspoken truth that lingered in the air. He spoke softly, revealing his awareness of you and Thaddeus. I have been aware for months. I might have chosen to reject it. Instead, I found myself perched upon a fence. Perhaps if you had been more thrilling, more driven, more of anything, I might not have sought fulfillment beyond our connection. I murmured, exclaimed. Your mediocrity has led me to this point, Michael. I anticipated his collapse, his pleas for yet another opportunity, just as he had done countless times in the past. Instead, he merely regarded me with an expression that resembled pity. I once believed you were beyond my reach, Sam. At this moment, it dawns on me that we arenapus, even competing in the same arena. He donned his headphones and shut his eyes, bringing the conversation to a close. Upon our return home, Michael took up residence in the guest room for good. I employed every tactic that had proven effective in the past, expressing my loneliness through tears, subtly suggesting the idea of starting a family, and even making attempts to allure him. Nothing seemed to yield results. I acted in a manner befitting any reasonable individual. I resolved to shatter his existence. Michael's significant presentation for the partnership committee was set for the upcoming month. I began with subtlety, concealing his notes, inadvertently erasing files from the communal home computer. Yet, he ensured that everything was backed up. I took it upon myself to escalate the matter. I was acquainted with Claudia, the senior partner's wife, through numerous company events. I reached out to her for a coffee and nonchalantly brought up my worries regarding Michael's drinking issue. It has been deteriorating, I remarked, my eyes brimming with rehearsed sorrow. Typically, I would remain silent, yet it's undeniable how demanding a partnership role can truly be. My concern for him weighs heavily on my mind. Claudia gently patted my hand, assuring me that she would bring it up with her husband. Insecurity. Objective achieved. In spite of my attempts to undermine him, Michael still secured the promotion. I ought to have felt joy. Increased wealth brings elevated status for us. Yet, it lacked the essence of my triumph. He did bother to call and inform me. I discovered the news through a colleague's congratulatory email addressed to the department. That evening, we were set to dine at Paxton and Colette's, a fitting venue to honor their anniversary. I adorned myself with an air of undeniable allure. The crimson gown that Michael once professed to adore, hair elegantly styled, and makeup flawlessly applied. Michael made his entrance alone, asserting that he would be arriving directly from his job. Upon his arrival, he presented Colette with an extravagant bottle of wine and a bouquet of flowers, yet he brought nothing for me. Once dinner had concluded, Paxton led Michael on a tour of their newly renovated garage, while Colette and I busied ourselves with clearing the dishes in the kitchen. As she inquired about our vow renewal, Michael's phone vibrated on the counter, signaling a new text message. From Ren, eagerly anticipating our meeting tomorrow. Shall we meet at my place at 7? I raised the phone to Colette. Observe, this is the challenge I have been navigating. He has betrayed my trust. Colette appeared ill at ease. Sam, perhaps it's best if you refrain from reading his messages. Oh, do tell. I laughed with a tinge of bitterness, as one might do upon discovering that Paxton was straying from the path of loyalty. For months now, Michael has maintained a palpable distance, opting for hotel stays and frequently messaging this woman. Link the points. I required Colette's support. I was gaining momentum, fully immersed in my thoughts, when I noticed Colette gazing beyond me. Michael and Paxton lingered in the doorway, their silhouettes framed by the light beyond. Samantha, Michael stated with calm resolve, it's time to go. The journey back was enveloped in silence until we finally arrived at our driveway. Then Michael shifted his gaze toward me. Ren serves as my therapist. I have been meeting with her on a weekly basis to navigate the consequences of our marriage. Within the confines of the room, I discovered him meticulously arranging items into a bag. What are you up to? I insisted. Michael remained oblivious, his gaze fixed elsewhere. This evening, I find myself nestled within the comforts of a hotel. Tomorrow, I have an appointment with a lawyer. This union has reached its conclusion, Sam. Is it because I have perused your writing? That seems rather theatrical. I let out a derisive laugh, striving to reclaim authority over the unfolding events. At last, he locked his gaze with mine. No, because I just witnessed you attempting to persuade our friends that I'm being unfaithful to mask your own betrayal. Your attempts to undermine my career became evident when your manipulation ceased to yield results. For you expressed that your heart never held love for me. It's disheartening to realize that might be the sole truth you've uttered in quite some time. I never thought Michael would truly walk away. Men of his caliber do not simply turn their backs on 8 years of marriage without putting up a struggle. Yet, as dawn broke, I found myself greeted by divorce papers laid out on the kitchen counter, accompanied by a note. My attorney will reach out to yours. I regret that it has reached this point. Perhaps we can find a solution together. Only the unvarnished truths. I took a sick day from work, dedicating the hours to strategizing my triumphant return. I had to take control of this story before he swayed everyone to his side. I arranged a lunch with my boss, weaving a narrative about Michael Appo's domineering conduct and my apprehensions regarding potential workplace repercussions following our separation. Subsequently, I reached out to our dear friends, one after another. With certain individuals, I adopted the perspective of the aggrieved spouse. In conversations with others, I alluded to Michael Appo's anger issues, which ultimately compelled me to propose a separation for the sake of my own well-being. I chose not to disclose the separation on social media immediately. Such a notion might come across as rather desperate. I opted to share a nostalgic snapshot from our honeymoon, accompanied by an enigmatic caption reflecting on the unpredictable nature of life. Subsequently, I conveyed a poignant quote regarding the discovery of strength amidst adversity. The comment section brimmed with messages of support, the majority presuming that Michael had committed an unforgivable act. Upon my return to the workplace, my colleagues greeted me with warm cups of coffee, generously offered to take over my meetings, and exchanged knowing nods as we passed each other in the hallway. In the interim, Michael found himself excluded from office lunch invitations, even with his recent promotion to partner. The sensation was akin to triumph. Then arrived the company spring gala. I had been filled with apprehension about my first official appearance after the separation. I invested a considerable sum in a new dress, had my hair expertly styled, and readied myself to confront Michael and the murmurs that surrounded us. I was caught off guard when Michael arrived with a date, and not just any date at that. Colette, our dear friend Colette, the wife of Paxton. They entered side by side, a subtle unity in their presence, devoid of any romantic gestures, yet unmistakably connected. A hush fell over the room as everyone absorbed this new turn of events. Paxton stepped in shortly after, appearing equally unfazed by the situation at hand. Colette made her way to me at the bar. "Quat, I wanted to tell you directly, Quat," she said softly. 3 months have passed since Paxton and I parted ways. We maintained our confidentiality as we navigated through our challenges. Michael has truly been a steadfast companion to both of us throughout this period. Thoughts surged through my mind. What does it matter? So, you Appos, re-seeing my husband now? Are we still, in a technical sense, married? I let out a sharp hiss. Absolutely not, Sam. We share a bond of friendship. I stand by his side, offering my support, for he confided in me the depths of his anxiety regarding this evening. She softened her tone. However, I believe it is important for you to be aware. Individuals are beginning to exchange insights regarding the various narratives you've been sharing. The hour of 9 in the morning. The encounter with my boss the following morning was short yet profoundly disheartening. Thaddeus had stepped down, yet not without meticulously recording our relationship and providing emails in which I had disclosed sensitive company information to him. The company had no intention of letting me go. The ordeal with HR would simply not be worth the trouble. However, I found myself facing a demotion and a transfer to the Houston office. Accept it or reject it. As I prepared for my journey to Houston 2 weeks later, I resolved to take one final chance. I reached out to Michael, suggesting we meet for coffee to iron out some details face to face. To my astonishment, he acquiesced. Michael appeared, radiating a charm that seemed almost unfair. Rejuvenated and attentive, adorned in a fresh shirt that felt unfamiliar. I had devoted an entire hour to perfecting my appearance, aiming to evoke a sense of loss in him, yet he hardly acknowledged my efforts. "Thank you for the meeting," I said, a wave of uncertainty washing over me. "I wished to discuss the house." Ensure that your assessment of the valuation is just and equitable. Michael gave a slight nod. The appraisal resides within the folder provided by my lawyer. It is, in fact, above the prevailing market rate. I confessed that my true intentions for inviting you here were quite different. I sought to comprehend how our relationship deteriorated to such an extent. Quat. You told me you never loved me, Quat, he said softly. Not even from the very beginning. In a fit of anger, I found myself retreating. In moments of pain, individuals often utter words that lack sincerity. Michael observed me intently. What have you heard about, Sam? What had I done to wound you at that instant when all was meant to be flawless? I found myself without a response that would expose more of the truth than I was willing to share. I chose to redirect my course. I've heard whispers that you've been sharing quite a bit of time with Colette. She is a friend navigating a challenging period, much like I once did. Are you sharing a bed with her? I inquired with candor. With a heavy sigh, Michael exhaled. No, but it would concern you even if I were. We are in the process of ending our marriage, Donopus, forget. Because you abandoned us. I spoke, my voice lifting just a touch. I surrendered. Michael Appos' facade wavered just a bit. You deceived me, wove a web of lies, played with my trust, sought to ruin my professional life, and claimed that your feelings for me were never real. What, precisely, was I meant to be battling for? Emotions welled up within me, and I could sense the genuine tears approaching. I am relocating to Houston, I confessed, allowing my voice to tremble, embarking on a fresh beginning. Do you not sense anything regarding that? Regarding my departure? Michael remained silent for an extended pause. A sense of relief washed over me as he finally spoke, a weight lifted for both of us. He never desired the existence we shared, Sam. Perhaps this is the moment to create something that truly resonates with your desires. He walked away, never glancing back, and I was left to confront the stark truth that he was truly finished. There was neither a climactic showdown nor an impassioned resolution at the 11th hour. Merely beyond, Houston was meant to be my new beginning. A fresh city, a new position, and a stylish apartment nestled within a luxury mid-rise, complete with a rooftop pool and a state-of-the-art fitness center. I reassured myself that this was a step forward. This was the refined, self-sufficient existence I had always yearned for. The truth lay in a stark one-bedroom, resonating with a profound sense of void. A demotion of such magnitude that I found myself reporting to someone who was 5 years my junior. Colleagues who had received prior warnings about my presence, their courteous smiles failing to illuminate their eyes. Following a particularly disastrous date with a man who devoted 2 hours to discussing his cryptocurrency investments, I returned home and found myself perusing Michael Appos' social media. His profile remained largely unchanged. Posting remains sparse, primarily focused on work-related matters. No change in relationship status, yet I found myself clicking on a photo he was tagged in from a corporate event, and there she appeared. Colette stood beside him, gazing up with unmistakable affection as he returned her look with a warm smile. They remained apart, their bodies unlinked, yet any observer could perceive the unspoken connection between them. They existed in unison. I acted in a manner consistent with reason and logic. I crafted a fictitious profile and reached out to Colette with a direct message. For your information, Michael Reynolds has herpes. His former spouse, a dear friend of mine, wished for you to be informed. As dawn broke, the shrill ring of my phone pierced the stillness, revealing an unfamiliar number on the screen. Could this be Samantha Reynolds? A voice, distinctly feminine, inquired. Indeed, who might this be? Julia Winters is my name. I represent Colette Harlow in a defamation case as her attorney. We have identified multiple harassing messages linked to your IP address and phone number. That evening, an email from HR arrived, requesting a meeting for the following morning. The meeting laid bare my deepest anxieties. After 3 months in Houston, my numbers were dismal. I found myself placed on a performance improvement plan, complete with monthly evaluations. If circumstances failed to improve within a span of 90 days, my position would be terminated. I dedicated myself to my work and pressed forward for approximately 12 hours. The following morning, an email notification arrived, revealing that Michael had changed his relationship status to being in a relationship with Colette Harlow. The post brimmed with heartfelt congratulations, featuring messages from those who had attended our wedding. A sudden shift occurred within me. I notified my workplace of my illness, secured a flight home for the upcoming weekend, and dedicated the day to meticulous planning. If Michael believed he could simply substitute me and find bliss with Colette, he was sorely mistaken. On a Sunday morning, I settled into a cafe directly opposite their beloved brunch destination. At precisely 10:30, they emerged, strolling hand in hand toward the restaurant. Once they settled onto the patio, I seized my opportunity. "Is that for real?" I proclaimed with vigor. "Could you not hold off until the divorce was finalized?" Their responses were maddeningly unlike what I had anticipated. Both of them appeared weary, as if they had anticipated this moment and had come to terms with facing it. "Sam," Michael said softly, "please don't create a disturbance." Colette took her leave, and Michael settled back into his seat. He said that nothing transpired between us until months after your departure. "It's really not something you need to concern yourself with. We are in the process of parting ways, don't forget. The decision rests with you, not with me. You need to acknowledge that your transition to Colette happened too quickly." I remarked that all your discussions regarding commitment and vows were merely empty words. Michael gazed at me, his eyes lingering for what felt like an eternity. "Is that truly the reason you returned here? To monitor the timeline of when I resumed dating?" He gave a slight shake of his head. "This is not a healthy situation, Sam." Tears loomed on the brink. "And there it is. After 8 years of shared moments, you they simply moved on as if I were never a part of your life?" "Absolutely not, Sam. Our 8 years remain etched in my memory. I have finally come to terms with them for what they truly were." He extended his hand toward his wallet, letting bills cascade onto the table. "I must take my leave. I kindly ask that you refrain from reaching out to Colette once more. The restraining order remains a viable option." That night, I found myself back in Houston, feeling utterly drained and shamed. My phone buzzed incessantly with missed calls from work, yet I faced the unsettling reality of having no job to return to on Monday. Upon arriving at the office, I discovered that my access card was non-functional. Security summoned my boss, who descended to convey the news in person. I found myself facing termination, effective immediately. The ensuing months unfolded in a haze of joblessness, unsuccessful interviews, and escalating financial burdens. Whispers traveled through the corridors of my profession. The unstable woman, having unraveled after her divorce, found herself shunned by potential employers. I found myself compelled to move into a more modest apartment, situated in a neighborhood that left me uneasy about wandering alone after dark. Half a year following our clash, I stumbled upon the announcement on social media. Michael and Colette had taken the step of engagement. The post garnered a multitude of likes and an abundance of comments, all celebrating the enchanting journey from friendship to love. It was their joy that shattered me. The timing was everything. The revelation arrived precisely 1 year after I had murmured those fateful words to Michael during our vow renewal. He had selected this date with intention. It was merely that he had moved on. He sought to reclaim the day I had marred, aiming to substitute the painful recollection with a more uplifting experience. The most unfortunate aspect? For the first time, I found myself unable to cast blame upon anyone but myself. I had never loved Michael in the manner he truly deserved. I had deceived, misled, schemed, and undermined. I had believed myself to be superior to him, yet it was he who had transcended my grasp. This realization transformed me. It was a profound awakening that led me to become a better person. Yet, that would merely be another falsehood, and I have already spun enough of those tales. Honestly, I find myself grappling with lingering resentment. I remain firmly convinced that, in some way, I was dealt a raw hand. I'm left pondering how different things might have been, envisioning a scenario where I would be the one basking in the joy of a new engagement, while Michael yearned for me from a distance. It seems that certain individuals remain impervious to the lessons life has to offer. Even when the cosmos presents them with the ideal chance to gain insight into their true selves, they opt for the comfort of self-deception. I am Samantha, the woman who possessed it all yet cast it aside, believing she was worthy of something greater. The woman who softly uttered, "I never truly loved you," ensuring that by the conclusion, it was undeniably a reality.